The annual CES conference had plenty of AI, but was it AI slop? Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. The Consumer Electronics Show is winding down in Las Vegas after a week crammed full of AI gizmos, announcements, and advancements. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the week, CES is kind of weird. It's open to the public, so it gets over 100,000 people going through the door. It's also catered to the consumer, so focuses on showcasing how tech is changing everyday products, and even has direct sales on the show floor. Mostly, though, it's absolutely gigantic, with over 4,300 exhibitors this year. The question every year is whether CES is just going to be a look at whatever hype thing we'll not care about a couple years down the line, or whether there's an actual there with some really innovative new consumer products. What we're going to do today is first go through quickly a representative sample of all of the things that were on display, but then we're going to talk a little bit about what they all added up to. At least one commentator had some fairly harsh words, so we're going to look at all that. Now, the most obvious theme, and why we're even talking about this here, was AI getting added to every appliance you could imagine. From AI fridges that can make their own shopping list, to TVs that can summarize the news or create a recipe from a cooking show, AI assistants were the hot new feature for appliances. Interestingly, some of the high-end AI features are starting to make their way into base-level products. Barbecue tech startup Brisket unveiled a $400 wood pellet grill with wireless connectivity and an AI assistant. Brisket says their assistant can, quote, monitor, control, and automate the cook for you. Manual input is still required for things like wrapping the meat or spritzing it with water, but apparently the AI is smart enough to adjust the cook automatically if you miss the alert to avoid spoiling your barbecue. The price point is competitive right at the bottom of the range, which suggests that AI is quickly becoming a basic feature for every smart device. Another big theme was AI assistants getting added to medical devices. The floor was filled with wearables getting an AI upgrade, but some companies are iterating on the idea. Withings unveiled a prototype smart mirror with a built-in health screening function that can test weight, heart, and lung health using a 360-degree scan of the user. Once it's finished, an AI-powered voice will explain the findings to you. Mashable's Christian DeLooper gave it a test run, and it correctly diagnosed a health issue he suffers from live on the show floor. Now, we'll come back to what was actually exciting about the show in a little bit, but this suggests we're starting to move to the point where health devices aren't just going to monitor our data, but actually analyze it to provide early warnings. One of the big stars of the show was a new Roomba with a robotic arm. The idea is that the automated vacuum cleaner can also pick up your dirty socks or anything else weighing more than 300 grams. This one is a little more machine learning than AI, but it demonstrates how much the growth in machine intelligence is driving advances in consumer robotics. What's more, the device isn't a prototype. It's a fully functioning machine that will start shipping in February at a price point of $1,600. There was a huge selection of AI-enabled smart glasses, headphones with built-in translation assistants, and other things that were firmly in the realm of science fiction just a few years ago, but are now part of fully functioning products. It, of course, wouldn't be CES without a whole range of deeply strange products, though. A company called Spicer unveiled an AI-powered spice dispenser that can automatically season your meal based on the recipe and learning about your personal taste profile. A company called BirdFi, which advertises aggressively on social media, showcased an AI-enabled bird bath. In this case, the AI simply recognizes when a bird has arrived to cool off and snaps a candid picture. A startup called Omni demonstrated their new AI wearable that competes with things like Rabbit and Friend. You can wear it as a pendant, but they're actually encouraging people to attach it to their temple for a sci-fi look. Omni claims the device can use a brain interface to understand when you're talking to it. We will also skip over the seedier side of the conference, but suffice it to say, there are many NSFW things that AI is also going to be used for. So while AI was omnipresent at the conference, as you can see, some thought that many, if not most of the exhibitors, were simply slapping an AI label on an existing product. Most notably, Kyle Wiggers of TechCrunch declared that CES was full of in-real-life AI slop. He wrote, "It's 2025 and companies still don't know what AI is good for. That's the impression I got from this year's CES, which featured AI-powered kitchen appliances, baby cribs, and other products that weren't really calling for AI." Wiggers took aim at the aforementioned AI spice dispenser, suggesting the product was largely about selling $15 proprietary spice capsules that can't be refilled. Adding, "Were people really itching for a meal-suggesting salt and pepper shaker to begin with?" The next product on the list for criticism was an AI-enabled air fryer that can divine the correct setting by scanning a page from a recipe book. Summing up what he saw, Wiggers wrote, "So far as I can tell, the out-there AI products at CES are a symptom of the industry's unrestrained hype. AI companies raised $97 billion last year in the US alone. Vendors are throwing AI spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks because there's little downside to doing so and massive potential upside." He suggested that many of the products on display didn't represent what can be achieved by AI-enabled consumer tech, but rather what could be achieved with an extremely low R&D budget designed to get a product on the show floor quickly. I don't think it's a wrong critique or a bad critique, but I think there's a little more here. When we're looking at products, there's a difference between something that is actively bad, something that is simply not useful, and something which is useful enough to justify cost or a new device. Some of this stuff is firmly in the camp of number 3, not useful, or overly complicated as to make it not useful, and I'm sure some is probably actively bad, but a lot of it is in that category of useful but not necessarily switching cost useful. To me, a more interesting question then is how likely it is that all of this stuff is just embedded in the future. In other words, are these use cases which feel somewhat banal even today, banal because they're just supposed to be a part, or just likely to be a part, of the core feature set of future devices? With current user experience paradigms, a lot of these feel like features that would be left unused, or solutions in search of problems. The theoretical increase in convenience isn't worth the cognitive load of shifting behaviors. However, I think things start to change when our main UX is just speaking out loud the things we want to happen. In other words, when we don't have to learn new features. It could be that a lot of this makes more sense. There's also a generational dimension. It may be that in 20 years, the idea that we had to one by one select groceries on an app to be ordered to us, or even crazier, actually go to a store, will be just nuts, and that of course your fridge orders things for you, and all you have to do is have some preferences and a conversation at the beginning of each week about what you're feeling and interested in eating. It's also important to remember that we simply just have no idea how all of these things are going to play out. During the IoT boom, no one really knew what the winning products would look like. No one really knew that the winning products would be stuff like smart home integrated light bulbs, garage doors, thermostats, and surveillance cameras. To take just one example, Ring was looking for $700,000 on $7 million on Shark Tank in 2013, and Kevin O'Leary tried to do it as a loan instead. 5 years later, in 2018, they sold to Amazon for $1 billion. The point is, there is a lot to suggest that throwing spaghetti at the wall is the right thing to do at this stage. What's more, I think it's important to not let these silly and stupid things at CES crowd out the genuinely important. Alongside the AI-powered spice dispenser, there were many products that gave a glimpse into the way that AI is going to change the world over the next few years. On top of that list has to be NVIDIA's AI supercomputer, Project Digits. We covered this on Wednesday's show if you want a more complete rundown, but the idea is that the tiny supercomputer really stands out as something that could change the industry in very short order. The computer is about the size of a hardbound book. And coming in at $3,000, it's cheap enough to fit the budget of computer science students and AI enthusiasts. During his keynote speech, CEO Jensen Huang said the goal is to place an AI supercomputer, quote, on the desks of every data scientist, AI researcher, and student. NVIDIA claims the computer can run 200B models locally and two networked together can easily handle the largest open source models currently available. This is a product, then, that is set to power a Cambrian explosion in the amount of tinkering, testing, and product development that can happen in the startup and academic setting. This is already a use case that has demonstrated product market fit. At the moment, the most cost-effective way of building a local inference machine is strapping 4 Mac minis together. A single Project Digits machine has specs that seem 3 times as fast as that setup and can do it at less than half the cost. Another point that's going somewhat under the radar is how fast consumer-level robotics is advancing. A Roomba with a robot arm stole the show largely because it's easy to see how that could be put to use immediately. But across the showroom floor, the robotic prototypes show that the sci-fi world is rapidly approaching. German Bionic unveiled a robo-exoskeleton capable of providing 80 pounds of lift assistance and a 20% boost to walking endurance. Other than making you look like a cyborg, these sort of devices could be a game changer for workers like baggage handlers and nurses who need to walk and lift all day long. Pricing wasn't revealed, so this seems like something that's not quite ready to proliferate. And indeed, it seems like it was developed well before the recent boom in AI robotics. The company claims the device uses AI to adapt to its users' needs. However, they also mentioned that it was trained on thousands of hours of real-world usage. And that was just the tip of the iceberg in robotics that were on display there. Within a few years, the idea of having half a dozen robots whizzing through your house could be a completely normal thing. Another of the big announcements from NVIDIA was their first series of open-source world models called Cosmos. Aside from enabling robots to be trained using simulations, the models have the potential to unlock a breakthrough in self-driving cars. Until now, the only way to train a self-driving algorithm has been recording and analyzing millions of hours of real-world driving data. That's why Tesla and Waymo have such a massive lead over legacy car makers who have barely gotten off the starting line. Jensen Huang said that the automotive simulation platform built around Cosmos promises to, quote, take thousands of drives and turn them into billions of miles. Again, changing the scenario for how self-driving cars start to evolve. The point is that while, yes, a lot of this stuff may be the silly AI spice sprayer, there were many diamonds under the rough that do show, I think, where the world is headed. I think for most of us, it's worth trying to shelve a little bit of our cynicism, and I know that more than one of you is going to run out and get that Roomba with the robot arm. For now, that's going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Until next time, peace